Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 18 of Import Nights, the review series for Gran Turismo's selection of, as the name implies, import performance cars, JDM cars as they're often called, and some vehicles in the category do kind of straddle the line between a couple of different categories. Vehicles which are technically justifiable as being called just sports cars rather than import tuners, but these cars are generally known more for being JDM cars rather than in these other categories, which is why some of them are being included in this series rather than in others. Now, this vehicle is a pure JDM machine. It's actually one of the most significant homologation cars of recent years. A homologation car, in this sense, is basically what a company has to do in order to go rallying. You have to make a certain amount of road-going equivalent versions to make a rally car and compete with it. And that's what this car's purpose was. It's the Subaru Impreza 22B Coupe. The Coupe, of course, being the two-door version of the Impreza, and the 22B being an iconic name for Subaru fans. These are extremely rare, very quick, and even though the raw spec, at least in its stock form, doesn't seem to deviate too much from the normal Imprezas, the reality is that the performance is improved. Now on the game, this is one of very, very few Imprezas and also Evos that I would say is actually treated in the way that it deserves in terms of tuning. I often say in my review videos of Imprezas and also Evos, and also some other vehicles as well, that they're just not allowed to be upgraded as much as they should be. In the case of this car though, it actually is allowed to reach those levels that an Impreza should be able to be upgraded to. For a start, there's the power. Now, the power isn't ridiculously higher than the other road-going Imprezas. It's got around 40 or 50 horsepower more than most of the newer ones. But that 40 or 50 horsepower difference puts this car at over 600 horsepower, and that really is the kind of power that all of the Imprezas, most of them, at the very least, deserve to be able to achieve. The Evos as well. You're looking at 609 horsepower in its fully tuned form. Being a boxer engine as well, torque is never an issue. 459 foot-pounds is more than enough, especially given that this car has all-wheel drive to put down all that torque and power, and is very light. A lot lighter, in fact, than most, if not all, of the newer Imprezas. It only weighs 1,039 kilos, which for an all-wheel drive vehicle of its size is really good. Now, as far as horsepower per tonne, you're looking at 586, which doesn't necessarily sound as impressive as some others, but that is pretty good, especially for an Impreza overall, considering it has more power to work with. As far as its maximum tuned PP level, you're looking at 577, and that's actually really reasonable. This is one of those vehicles, I would say alongside cars like the Ford Focus RS on Gran Turismo 6, that are OP, but in a justifiable way. They're not vehicles which are just plucked out of thin air and allowed to be really good for no good reason. They do actually deserve to be. The Focus RS, incidentally, is also a rally-based build. That's what Ford wanted to do with that car. And that's also a brilliant vehicle. So there are good grounds to make these cars as good as they are. Now, as far as price, you'd probably expect a limited edition version, a homologation car, as it is, to be pretty expensive, especially when it's also significantly more powerful than any of the other road-going Imprezas. But that's actually not the case. This car only costs 30 grand, so the value for money on this thing is actually fantastic, and that's coming from someone who is not really a fan of the Subaru Impreza or the Mitsubishi Evo for the most part. I like them, but I don't love them. I have more respect than love for them. This car is a brilliant vehicle to buy regardless of whether you're a fan of the Impreza specifically or not, because it's one of those vehicles like the Focus RS, the Dome Zero and various others which are just really essential cars to own. The Suzuki GSX R4 is another perfect example. Vehicles that are just really useful. They have great prices, great value for money, and you'll end up using them a lot because they're so good. This Impreza is most definitely one of those cars, and one of the biggest improvements I'm very happy to say that this car allows the Impreza to have is top-end performance. In almost all of my reviews for any Impreza or Evo-based vehicle, I always have to say the same downside. They just don't have the top-end performance to really compete with the cars that they should be able to compete with. This car rectifies that. Now, I'm not saying it's going to beat a Supra anytime soon for top speed, of course not, but the top speed is significantly faster than the normal Imprezas, new or old, and it actually allows the Impreza to have really no weaknesses. This car does not have any downsides. It's, from a performance point of view, pretty much a perfect vehicle. On Gran Turismo at least. Obviously it's more OP than in real life, but it has no significant downsides. It's got a low price, it looks great, it's as powerful as it deserves to be, it's light, it has all-wheel drive grip, perfectly balanced steering, brilliant drift potential, but at the same time makes a superb and sometimes very difficult to beat circuit racer, has the top-end speed that they all deserve to have, and of course can launch off the line like an absolute monster. So overall, regardless of whether you're an Impreza fan, as I'm not, you need to own this car, because I guarantee if you own it, you will end up using it. It's a brilliant vehicle. One of the best JDM cars in the game, in fact. But that's it overall for this particular pick. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.